I believe this is the assembly of the righteous. I believe we are the assembly of the blessed people. God has called us to His church to make us blessed people. And we need to take note that it does not say God blesses the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked. It says, blessed is the man. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked. God has already set up a system of blessings. He does not just randomly bless this person or bless that person just because He feels like it that day. To the Israelite people, He said, "This day I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." Choose life. Choose blessing, so that you and your children may live. That's what God said. It's all laid out here. I want you to choose the blessing. So it's not God just throwing the blessing to whoever He wishes. There is a system. And we need to follow that system, and we need to become this person who are blessed. We need to become the blessed people, and that's how God blesses us, by transforming each of us into a blessed person. So how does God do that? How does God transform us from a cursed being into a blessed being? First, He sets us apart. He separates us from the world. The Hebrew word for holiness, or being holy, literally means being set apart. When I set apart certain things that are mine for God, okay, this portion will be for God. Okay, that portion becomes consecrated. That portion becomes holy. God sets us apart. And so it is no wonder that Psalm 1 begins with where the blessed does not walk, stand, or sit. We need to be separate from what the world is doing. When someone falls into Satan's trap, it is not just one slip. It is not just one mistake that person makes. Oh, I made a mistake, I'll go back. Satan is like a fisherman. He will reel you in slowly but surely until he has you and your life in his grip. Satan is not just trying to give you some hard time. He wants to destroy your life forever. And that's not what I'm saying. That's what she just said. She just said the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And he was talking about Satan. The other day, I was coming back to church with two other pastors from our church. And we went to our denomination's General Assembly, and we were on our way back, but we didn't have a ride, so we took a taxi. And I wanted to share the gospel with the taxi driver, so I struck up a conversation, and I said, "Wow, as a male driver, your car smells really fresh." And I wasn't exaggerating; it was a very clean car. So other pastors were like, "Oh, yeah, we don't smell any cigarette smoke or anything." And it turns out that he just started driving the taxi. And he hasn't been even 1 month. So he was still in the apprentice stage. He wasn't fully employed by the company as yet. And the reason that he started driving the taxi was because he lost everything. His friend, his childhood best friend, took everything he had in a fraud. And I'll talk about that later. But when he lost all he had, he lost all hopes. So he left his family and went to Seoul train station, 서울역에, 그죠? And he lived as a homeless person. But by God's grace, one of his former employees was passing through the station and spotted him. But just to make sure that it really was him, the former employee watched him for 2 days. And when he was sure that it was him, he got a TV station involved. 그래서 막 KBS인지 그런 데서 나와가지고 막 취재까지 하면서 he was rescued. And he went back to his family, and he went back to his church. He started a new life, and he started driving a taxi. And when we were talking, he was sharing his story and how his friend stole everything, but he didn't seem to be in anger. He sounded as if he was over that pain and he was ready to live a new life and put all this behind him. So how did he lose everything? He was in construction business and it was going really well. So he got his childhood friend involved. He had him, help with the demolitions for his company. So they shared the office together and they worked on the same project together many times. So they were really, really close, and things were kind of open to each other. Then one day, his friend took all his papers, all his friend's papers, 통장 and all this stuff, and he took all the money, he took all the possessions, buildings and apartments and everything, and disappeared. And later, his friend's body was recovered. He had committed a suicide. And it turns out that his friend had a gambling problem. He had a gambling addiction, and not only addiction, he had a 60 trillion won gambling debt. 600억. And that was after taking everyone's money around him. 처갓집 돈 and everyone's money. He took everyone's money and paid the debt, but still had 600억 left. 60 trillion won. Wow. So everyone around him lost all they had because of it. And that is what Satan does. When he comes to us, when he tempts us, that is his goal. Whatever that temptation may be, it could just be a small thing. But that is not his goal. His goal is to get you completely and destroy your life and destroy everything that is connected to you. That is what Satan does, and it is his specialty. He will start with something casual, like following a friend into a casino. Oh, I'll not even pray. I will not even play. I will just go for fun. Right? Walking that path. And the person goes there, stands next to his friend and watches his friend, pulling the lever. 빠찡코라 그러나? 빠찡코. And all the numbers go on and 한 번도 안 해봤어요. I've never been to one. I don't know. It's just from movies and TV shows. And I heard that is very, very addictive. and you try to like win back everything, right? But next time he goes again, and this time he sits next to him and he does the pulling himself too. Let me try this once. Right? And he wins big and it feels good, and next time he wants to do it again. And so in no time, you're hooked. But for us who are blessed, we don't do that. We're not even attracted to things like that. When we go to places like that, against our will, it doesn't feel right. You just want to get out of there. We do not walk that path. And we do not stand there. It doesn't feel right. And we do not sit there and play with them. As Christians, it is our blessing that we don't have to have all the garbages that other people have to have in their life. I grew up, I couldn't smoke or drink. I couldn't even think about it. And I couldn't do a lot of other things. We didn't even have any video games in our home, not even a computer. Right? And there were times I resented some of these things that, how come I can't go to our retreat on Sunday? Our school has this retreat for all those people who are the graduating class, and I'm in the graduating class, and they're all going to a retreat center, for the weekend, and I can't go. I'm the pastor's son, and I couldn't go. And I was like, oh man, how come I can't go? Our life, it is set apart. And according to Addiction Forum, in Korea, 2.25 million people are alcoholics. 2.68 million people have internet or video game addiction. 2.06 million people have gambling addiction. 120,000 people are drug addicts. We are such a small country. But we have this 2 million people in each category addicted. And in total, 1 out of 7 Koreans suffer from one of these addictions. And it is costing us $109 billion. $109 billion. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. Amen. The second way God makes us blessed people is that He makes us rely on Him only. The only part is the important part. Why do we need to rely on God only? Because the dry season is coming. In Israel, I talked about this before, there are 2 kinds of bodies of water, 2 kinds of streams. Not everything that flows year long. There are streams that flow year long, which means the source is not the rain. The source is some kind of spring somewhere up in the mountain. The Jordan River is a spring sourced river. So they call anything that runs year-round river. So some people will visit the Holy Land and they expect to see something like Han River. 우리 한강 같은 거를 요단강에서 people expect that to see something like that from a Jordan River, and they see very small stream, especially during the dry season. And they're like, it's so small. I could just jump over it. But they call everything that flows year long river. And everything else is wadi. Wadi. Wadis are any stream of water that flows during the rainy season, but when the dry season comes, it stops. It disappears because the source is gone. So all the wadis will dry up. In wadis, the water flows in the rainy season when the water is plentiful anyway. But when the dry season comes, all the wadis dry up. And dry seasons do come every year. Hard times will come to everybody. If you are rooted in a wadi, you will dry up when that hard time comes. When that dry season comes. Only God is the ever-flowing river of life for us. But if left alone, our tendency is to put down our roots on the easy wadis, not on God. Because it's hard to live by faith. We require some proof. We need to see things. We need to feel things. We need to touch things. But whatever God does is not seen. We can't see it until it happens. So it is really hard to hang in there and just, be strong in your faith. So we get used to relying on other things and other people. We will start to put down our roots on long streams that will dry up when the dry season comes. So God trains us. God puts us in hard situations where there is no other help. To let the Israelites learn to put down their roots in the everlasting God, God drove them out to the wilderness. And this is what Moses said. He gave you manna to eat in the desert, something your fathers had never known, to humble and to test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. So that in the end you might be blessed. God took them out to the wilderness where they cannot grow or gather any food, so that they had to rely totally on God and God's manna every day. In the wilderness, they put down their roots in God because there was nothing else. And that was good training for the Israelite people. So when they were coming out of the wilderness into the promised land, they were a completely different group of people, totally relying on God. People of faith, they were the blessed people. To make us blessed people, God will take away our earthly hopes. God may cause things that no one on earth can solve. Problems that no doctor, no professors, no teachers, no counselors, no bankers can solve. So that we may learn to put down our roots in God. Because being connected to God is what makes you a blessed person. If God is cutting off all the hopes in your life, let me give you a good news. There is hope. Be happy. Something good is going to happen. God is training you so that you will put down your roots in God, not in other things. You are being forced to rely on God. God is training your roots to teach it where the water is. So that time will pass, and you will get your water in time. And something good will happen. Your life will bring forth fruit in season because you're being fed by God. There is a comic book writer in Switzerland. I couldn't say his name, so I just left it out. And he has won numerous awards and prizes for his comics. He sold more than 100,000 copies in Europe, compared to, I don't know, Slam Dunk or whatever, Japanese comics. It's like almost nothing, but as a comic book, he did really well. He was very successful. And they were also published in USA, in China, and other countries. And some studios are starting to develop TV series based on his work. But before this international success, God made sure that his roots were only extended to God and to no one else and nothing else. As he devoted to writing comics full-time or drawing comics full-time to spread the good news and hope, his family began to suffer financially. And one day, he opened his fridge and found it nearly empty. There was nothing to eat. And he suddenly became afraid. Oh my goodness. I thought God was going to provide for us. Will we have something to eat tomorrow? And all day long, he was just worrying about food. He was just worrying about food until he came to Matthew 6:31. He knew this verse before, but it just came to him that day. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So when he read that, he repented of his worries and being afraid. And instead, he thanked God for the food in advance. And he slept. He had a good night's sleep with peace in his heart. And the next morning, an old man came knocking on the door. And he opens the door, and he has his arms full of food. And he says, since that day, God literally fed them for 7 years. 7 years. And Satan still tried to discourage him about his financial situation and about his calling, but he plowed through within his faith. Then one day, an American CEO called him because he saw this comic writer in his vision. And this comic writer was speaking to thousands of young people. So he was so impressed by it, and he called him up and asked him, is there something I can do for you? Do you need something? And learning that this guy was a businessman, he asked, could you lend me $16,500 for my first book? And he said, I'll get back to you in a few days. And in a few days, he got his $16,500, right? And published his first book, which was a big success. 그래서 he lived a happily ever after. God does not bless us just because he loves us. That will be just like giving a Ferrari to a young son who doesn't even know how to drive. That will be just killing him with this expensive machine. You need to first teach him the responsibility of driving. You need to first teach him how to drive. God doesn't just bless us, He makes us blessed people. If you have given your life to Jesus, you are in good hands. You may be facing dire situations. You may have lost all hope. You may think that God has abandoned you. But take heart. Keep on praying. Keep on trusting God. Because God is training you how to drive. Isn't that a good thing? Oh, God is training me how to drive. That means He's going to get me some kind of car, right? Right? So we can look into the future and we know there is something. If God is teaching me how to draw water from Him, that means He's going to give me fruits. Even in the dry season, when everything else is dried up, I will be bringing forth fruits for God. My life will be in abundance. God will be with me. God will feed me. God will provide for not just provide for my life, but God will do wonders through me. But it has to go through that step of being trained and relying on God only, and nothing else and no one else. So have hope. You know, if He's trying to teach you how to drive, something is coming up. Let us have hope in God and stay the course, trusting Him and keeping on praying. Amen. Let us pray.